Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, welcome to our special broadcast during the Jalsa Salana UK 2024. Today we look at the role the Ahmadiyya Muslim community has played in the history of Africa and its development. For the last 100 years, the community has stood as a pillar of strength, contributing significantly to the educational, humanitarian, and moral advancement of African nations. In this segment, we look back at the historical and current contributions the Jamaat is making. I'm joined in the studio by a very revered and distinguished guest of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. And I will start with respected Amir Saab of the Gambia, who is in the person of Baba F. Trolle Saab. Amir Saab, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Next to him is also the respected Amir Saab of Sierra Leone, who is also in the person of Musa Mewa Saab. Amir Saab, you are welcome.
Yes,
and then to our very own neighbor Amir, who is the Amir of Nigeria, Amir Saab, Amir Alhaji Alatoye Folorunso Aziz Said.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
It is a very, very beautiful occasion here to for you to join us in the studio. Without wasting much time, I will start with you, Amir Saab of Nigeria. Respected Amir Saab, we would want to know, when did the message of Islam Ahmadiyyat reach the African shores?
Yes, thanks very much for that question. As for Nigeria, Ahmadiyya came to Nigeria in 1916. Okay. And we did celebrated our 100 years in 2016. That's about 8 years ago. Yeah. And over that 100 years, I think one of the things that the Jamaat is known for in Nigeria, undisputedly, is that we brought the Western, education as far as Islam is concerned into Nigeria. Building of primary schools, secondary schools. Okay. At a point, we had about 52 secondary schools in Nigeria across the whole country, both the north and the south. Until the government decided, to take over those secondary schools and willingly gave them without collecting a dime from them. So till today, they keep on respecting the Jamaat. And now what we wanted to add to it, based on the blessings of His Holiness, is a university. And I was shocked when we got to the university NUC office and we met the executive secretary, and he said, Ahmadiyat, we've been expecting your university all this while. Please go and bring your paper so that I can sign, and approve the university for you. So I was so excited. He said, we know you, across West Africa, you are leading as far as, education is concerned. Yeah. Yes, others are joining you. The other one is hospital, as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Because ladies, sometimes they go to government hospital or general other hospitals. You have anyone treating them, but in our own hospital, we have male doctors, we have female doctors, and so Muslims really appreciate that. And you have very highly placed people, attending hospitals. So let me just limit it to that as we move on. We'll discuss more on what we are doing.
Thank you very much, Amir Saab. To Amir Saab of the Gambia. Amir Saab, looking at the very early 20th century, in the 1920s, 1916s, Ahmadiyyat came to the very shores of Africa. Can you highlight, for the benefit of all of us, the means through which they used to propagate the message of Islam Ahmadiyyat?
Alhamdulillah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ahmadiyyat came to Africa at a time when Islam, of course there are Muslims all over Africa, but the pure teachings of message of Islam was not conveyed. Right. And Imam alayhi Islam came for that. So there were so many customs and traditions. Those who are not contrary to Islam, they are maintained. Right. But all those customs and traditions contrary to Islam, we are eradicated by and when you come to even prayer, praying services, Ahmadiyya did a lot in Africa. And schools were built across Africa, schools, hospitals through Nusrat Jahan.
Exactly.
Nusrat Jahan came to being in 1971. It was 1970 when the third Caliph came his West African tour. So in the Gambia, he saw a vision to serve humanity. So it's called Nusa Jihan scheme. So this scheme, schools are built across the, Africa. And in the Gambia, our schools are known to be one of the best.
Right.
Hospitals all over the country. So when you go to the government offices, parastatals, private institutions, you have products of our schools. You know, most of them, they are not Ahmadis, but they are sympathizers of the Jamaat. You have ministers who are Ahmadis. The current vice president of the Gambia was lectured school at Nusa Senior Secondary School, and many others in defense and all others. So nowadays it has grown so large, you know, in terms of agriculture, IT centers, Humanity Force came, IAAA came, and many others. And we are looking forward to build our first International Masuro Technical College. You know, so Ahmadiyya is a service to humanity. This is what we are. And it's equally the same in other countries.
MashaAllah. Jazakumullah, respected Amir Sahab. Now to respected Amir Sahab of Sierra Leone. Amir Sahab, what do you think are the major challenges that is the African continent, you know, are facing from a religious perspective?
In my view, the very first challenge African countries are facing now regarding the religious landscape in Africa has to do with the visit of Africa by misguided scholars.
Right.
You have a situation wherein people who have messed up their countries in the so-called Islamic world along sectarian divide, they have now decided through Tabligh preaching, approaching African countries with the same views that have affected those countries. So as you could see in the Sahel region now, we have situations where in Burkina Faso, you saw the martyrdom of 9 Ahmadi Muslims, and recently in Togo. So that's the very big challenge we have on the African continent now. From a historical perspective, Islam is no new phenomenon in Africa. We know Islam has moved along with trade. Many scholars coming from North Africa, from many areas. Mali has been an Islamic center for many years. Countries along the West African coast have had Islam. But to have the level of organized religion Ahmadiyya has introduced to Africa, and pushing that further, not just by human agency, but as a divine message that came. And we have this level of organized religion under the blessed instructions of the Khalifa of the time. His supervision on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a yearly basis on the African continent and across the world is very much important. Scholars have felt very much jealous of the progress Ahmadiyya is making on the African continent today. They desire to roll back the efforts of Jamaat in Africa, but they don't know how far the Jamaat has worked to achieve where we are now. So if you're asking about a very big challenge Africa is having now, where you have a situation of the 54 Islamic republics across the world plus more, a good many of them are either fighting each other or under Western oppression, or one conflict of violence or another is happening. So we have a contagious effect coming from those sectarian establishments using money, seeking to influence the African landscape. Within the African context, if there are any local factors that are coming, not very much effectively, because the very first was the Muslims believe secular education was a pollution to the human mind. So Ahmadiyya broke that barrier. We are able to inform them that you can be a good Muslim and also get education in the secular world. In Sierra Leone, for instance, the first Islamic secondary school was established in 1960. Imagine for a country that had had a tertiary education in 1827, the Frabe College, now University of Sierra Leone, was established. And no Muslim institution, formal institution was there. The educational structures were very much informal. Ladies were very much deprived of education, and even today for many communities, that's another challenge. It was Ahmadiyya that came up to say, it is no sin for a Muslim to get education in the secular world at the highest level. In fact, it is a saying of our beloved Prophet that if it calls you to go as far as China in search of knowledge, you should pursue that. When they established the first secondary school, it was purely a boys' school. They later realized that they have missed out on a very key Islamic principle, with limited resources of opening girls' secondary school, most of the schools became co-educational to cure that gap in terms of leaving the gender issue out of education. So from a broader perspective, if Africa is left on its own with fair competition and let the true Islam be presented, Ahmadiyya will continue to thrive and peace will continue to prevail. In the absence of that, if the political establishment in Africa, if they are allowing people who do not have the right orientation of Islam, they are coming with their sectarian biases, they are planting divide in Africa, and this is going to be very much difficult for us in terms of fighting terrorism as we see in the West.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Amir Sahab, Jazakumullah for that wonderful elaboration. Respected Amir Sahab, you mentioned in your opening that when it was decided that the Jamaat wants to build a university, the authorities there in Nigeria were very happy to actually welcome it. We would want you to, elaborate on that, bringing to light how the Nigeria Jamaat is recognized in the country. I mean, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Nigeria recognized in Nigeria.
Okay, thanks very much. As I said, before, when we got to the executive secretary, that was his comment. And in terms of recognition, because the Jamaat actually, pioneered the primary, education in Nigeria. That was in 1921. When we built the first, primary school, and then after that we built many secondary schools, and so many states. We have, just as Amir Sahab said, there are so many people who pass through those schools and are at the highest level. It's only one state that said, okay, or two states really said, okay, those secondary schools continue to run them because of, the way you run school, and that's Nasarawa. We have three secondary schools there. They're still under our control. Kano, they're still under our control, and we have one in Ogun State, still under our control. So we were known, generally across that. Look, when you talk about enlightenment, and that's why they take Ahmadiyya as a different set of people in terms of peace. That what Islam means is actually what the Jamaat means. Exactly. Because just as Amir Sahab Sierra Leone had said, terrorism is a major challenge there. But they believe generally that Ahmadiyya are very peaceful. And we have quite a number of our youths that are in the National Youth Council. In some states, our Majlis Hudam, are the chairman of those state, council. So we preach peace. And the executive governors, they do recognize the contribution of our youth and of the Jamaat, as well. So on a general note, they know that we are very peaceful, and we do strongly oppose, this issue of terrorism in the name of Islam. I think we've made it very clear to them that those people do not honestly, represent the teachings of Islam. And invariably, some of them had said it openly, that, look, you cannot take our land, our resources, our, power. So these are the things they are fighting for. And I have keep on asking them, which one is a pillar of Islam, of these things that you people are quarreling for? Killing people in your own countries and then coming to Africa. We don't behave like that in Africa. But unfortunately, they've started, gaining some people, just as devil would definitely gain people anywhere he gets into. And I think in Africa we need to realize that no, we shouldn't tolerate all this kind of extremism against other humanity. And so that's where we are.
Amir Sahab, Jazakumullah for that celebration. Respected Amir Sahab, we talked about the contribution of the Jamaats in the respected countries. Amir Sahab has mentioned a few. Amir Sahab from Sierra Leone has also mentioned a few of them. We would want you to highlight, some of, talking about the developmental projects of the country. How is the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in the Gambia, contributing towards that in the country?
Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat in the Gambia is immensely contributing to the national development. And this is acknowledged by the government of the day and the people of the Gambia. Recent, the government has given 1,000 hectares of land to the Jamaat because His Holiness a few years ago said Africa should be able to export food. So before you can export, you must have something in the house. So food security So, and this has been recognized by the government, especially when they know that Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, because of the trust they had in the Jamaat, they said we can give you 1,000 hectares. So at the moment we are working on documentation. Just last week a professor or an expert came to the Gambia to prepare the master comprehensive plan for that food basket, so that we can be able to cultivate rice. And it's not only that, you have Masro International Technical College, which I have said, government has given us land. So you can see we are not buying land, but government is so much interested in the development of its people to allocate lands to us to develop. Because they said, you people, very serious, trustworthy, reliable, we don't have anything to go back. You know, when you are given something, you do it. And all your schools are successful, medical institutions, so there's a trust. And when you are given a trust, that's the time you have a lot to do. So I'm so with the guidance of His Holiness as a Caliphat Masih V, may Allah be his helper, next few years, the vision and the objective of His Holiness will be realized. And so you have so many developmental projects, and I'm so Sierra Leone the same, Nigeria the same, everywhere. So Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat is a service Jamaat.
Amir Saab, Sierra Leone, Amir Saab, we've heard all these projects going on, in the name of the Jamaats in the countries. In Sierra Leone, we've heard there are a lot of things that are also going on there as well. What has actually led you to this success that, the Jamaat Sierra Leone, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Sierra Leone is recognized, on that, stage?
The global Jamaat has same objective everywhere it exists. Haququllah, haququ ibad. Our responsibilities and services to Allah in prayers and sacrifice, and our responsibilities to humanity. Wherever the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat has existed, we have responded to those two needs.
Exactly.
Many other religious organizations would most likely concentrate on their worship with God and elevate themselves to levels of wali, friends of Allah, and witnesses that they can now judge other people. As Ahmadi Muslims, we continue to be very humble people at every stage of our life. So the Jamaat approached Sierra Leone, first Ahmadi who accepted Jamaat in 1915, Maulana Pa Musa Gaba. He accepted Jamaat, reading some magazines about Jamaat, and wrote to the Khalifa of the time, as a Muslim Maud Anhu, and accepted the Jamaat. By 1921, the first pioneer missionary landed, Nazir Ahmad Ali Nayasab, who died a Shahid in Sierra Leone, got ill and died, was a West African champion. So the Jamaat got to Sierra Leone at that level, and the preaching started. So the message was peaceful, the message of love for humanity, the message of service to humanity. So as we sit here, the first primary school was opened in Rokopo, one of the very first towns the Jamaat contacted in 1938. And the first secondary school in 1960, Muslim secondary school, formal institutions of learning owned by an Islamic institution. So as we sit here now, about 313 schools we have in the country, primary, junior, and senior secondary schools across the country. And all these schools are open to people from all faiths, all denominations in Islam. Exactly. So we have given services to the people of Sierra Leone. As Amir Saab, the Gambia has just alluded to the fact there is no government office or public institutions you enter in Sierra Leone, you will not find a product of Ahmadiyyat. Every day we are discovering new people. Exactly. The current vice president attended the Ahmadiyya Muslim Secondary School in Freetown that was established in 1964, 4 years after the one in Bo. A vice principal before that, the vice president before that in the last government, the All People's Congress, Alhaj Samsumana, also attended the same school in Freetown. I have a classmate who is current youth minister of the government of Sierra Leone, Mohamed Bangura, Oman Bangura, Honorable. We sat in the same class, we are in the same Ahmadiyya boarding home and all of it. So across the country, because of the services we have given, the educational support, the health support, the moral training we have given to many people across the country, and love we have given to people, and most importantly, the prayers of the Khalifa to the country, Sierra Leone has become a darling of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat. We've had just 2 Khilafat visits in the history of the country. In 1970, when Hazrat Nasir Ahmad Rahimahullah visited the country, the 5 West African countries he visited, and thereafter he was informed by the situation in Africa in the field of education, in the field of health, that there was need for an intervention. Again, the humanitarian services were intensified. Gambia became a beneficiary of Nuzhat Ahmadiyat there, and many more schools were established in Ahmadiyat. We even had the very first girls' secondary school now, purely girls' school, which is there also. And in the field of health again, about 6-7 hospitals, clinics were established across the country before the war. Beyond the war, we are still managing 3, and we are receiving support from Jamaats across the world to make sure services continue to humanity.
May Allah richly bless you. In fact, the community has won the trust of all these government officials, and so it has become very, very easy to, bring up some of these projects that the Jamaat needs to carry out. Mirsab, Nigeria, you mentioned about the new university. What is the vision of His Holiness for this new university?
Okay, thanks very much. The university, which is named Minaret International University, was approved, by His Holiness as far back as 2013. 2017, the master plan for the whole university was also approved by His Holiness, and then very recently, we've almost completed what is required, to get the approval.
Exactly.
So His Holiness also approved the commissioning of the university. The objective significantly is to improve on the standard of education, that we have, not only in Nigeria, even across Africa. And 2 major of those objectives stands out. The first one is the quality of education and the environment where our children will be studying. To be devoid of all these secret cults, harassing students. So it will be an institution with a very serious security. Without even anything, we already have CCTV camera everywhere now. Hardly will you find a single university in Nigeria that does that. We want to know really what's going on, and even including what's going on there without breaking into your privacy. So security of our children to be able to study in a very conducive environment is number 1. The second thing is to make sure that they don't just collect certificates and start roaming around the street. No, as a graduate, you must have had something you are doing. So we are focusing more on employment, and that employment doesn't mean you have to apply for, employment, but rather you can be a self-employed. And that's why we are starting with sciences, which Uzura said, start with sciences, including, Greek.
Wow.
So these sciences, we've taken computer sciences, data management, digital, marketing, and these are things that youth can do, on their own. So those are the key objectives of the university.
Mashallah. We are very, very grateful to you, Amir Saab of Nigeria, Amir Saab of Sierra Leone, Amir Saab of the Gambia. May Allah the Almighty richly bless you for sharing such, wonderful experiences with us.